Interviewing Ms Johansen.
Hi, Alice. Hi, Moy and George.
Good afternoon,
With them.
Ms. Johnson.
Okay.
One of the questions that we wanted to ask you for this interview was, what college did you go to?
I went to Pitzer College, which is one of the Claremont colleges. And Claremont is about 40 minutes east of East LA from Stern Mass.
Your question.
Go.
Another question?
My second question.
So your second question is, what did you major in, and what kinds of classes did you take? Is that what you were trying to say?
Yes.
All right, great. So I was a double major in psychology and Chicano studies, and I also minored in sociology. And so all of those majors have kind of to do with looking at society, looking at the world, and also looking at people and how people think and why people make the decisions that they do. So the types of classes I took had a lot to do with studying people and behavior. And I had an emphasis, oh my gosh, you guys. I had an emphasis on education and looking at the school system and how and why we have so many educational inequalities. So your third question?
Yeah. What was the most difficult class and why?
My most difficult class was actually a theory class. It was called African American Social Theory. And it was really difficult because my professor was she was a difficult professor. She graded very hard. Her class was all about theories and looking at the world through the lens of African Americans and their entire history. And it was difficult because she's the only professor I ever had who, when I turned in a paper that I worked for hours, for days on, she completely tore it to shreds and made me start over multiple times. And so it was my hardest class because it forced me to really look at my writing and to make it up until her standards.
How were you able to manage your time?
Time management. That was really difficult for me at one point. But time management, throughout my years, I was able to figure it out. A lot of what helped is having an agenda, and I literally planned out every hour of every day, saying this is a list of what I need to get done today. And I also made a calendar of all of the upcoming assignments. And so I was able, since I wrote everything down, I was able to keep up with it. But it was still really difficult to manage my time regardless.
How were you able to afford all the expenses?
Money was really tight for me. I come from a family where they didn't have money to send me to college, and so I was at Pitzer on a scholarship. And so part of that was I had to keep my grades up in order to keep my scholarship, in order to keep going to the school. But I also was allowed to do work study. And work study is a program that they do through financial aid, in that I'm able to work at the school and get money in order to pay off my tuition and my other living expenses. So I worked multiple jobs. I worked as a tutor, I worked at different offices, I worked at the community engagement office, and all 4 years of college I also worked at a preschool part-time and taught little preschoolers. So I worked full-time the entire time that I was in college.
Teaching boys.
Can you pass me?
Teaching kids like Moises.
Okay. My question is, did you have any free time?
I had some free time, not a lot. Usually when I did have free time, I would spend it with all of my friends, my roommates, who happened to be my best friends. But since we didn't have much free time, we kind of turned our social hour into something productive. So most of the time when I was hanging out with my friends, we were doing homework together, we were working on projects together. So we were just kind of trying to fit in the hours with your friends at the same time as you were being productive and doing work.
So, did you ever bust any all-nighters for any classes?
Yes, I busted a lot of all-nighters for multiple classes. That's when I was talking about how time management was kind of difficult for me at first. That's what I was referring to. At my first 2 years of college, I wasn't as organized with my time, and I wasn't planning ahead all of the work I had, and so things would pile up on me, and next thing I knew, I didn't sleep for 2 days straight because I had 3 papers due in one day. So I did bust a lot, which if I could go back, I wish I could manage my time better so that I could sleep more.
What characteristics should college students have to be successful?
I think there's a lot of characteristics I think college students need to have, but one of the main things is being persistent, because in college, you're really challenged as a person, both emotionally, spiritually, academically, and there's a lot of things that happen during that time of your life that can bring you down. And I think one of the things that helped me the most was just being persistent and making sure that I always kept my eye on that end goal and pushing through all of that. So persistence is definitely one. Another one is discipline. There were a lot of times when all of my friends were going out or doing something that was way more fun than me staying in the library and writing an essay. And so I had to be disciplined enough to really focus and prioritize and make sure that I finished what I needed to do. So I think those are 2 characteristics.
Okay.
Those are 2 really important characteristics that every college student should have.
All right. Thank you, Miss, for the interview.
You're welcome.
Johansen, nope.
You can close it
Okay.
now.